Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Spurs Chat podcast, where I've got three very special guests to talk about transfer deadline day. There is just over an hour left of transfer deadline day. Spurs have got one signing in so far for the first team, one confirmed signing for the development team, and three players have left on loan. We are expecting more developments in this next hour or so, and that is exactly why we're doing this show. Let me introduce the three very special guests that I've got today. We've got Craig back with us. Craig, how are you?
Hello, Chris. You all right? Yeah, not too bad. Just waiting to see the news that we've got Porro over the line and something hasn't gone badly wrong. So let's fingers crossed it happens during the show, eh?
Absolutely delighted to have Richard Whitehead, MBE, back with us. Rich, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Happy to be back on the show as always, and transfer deadline day is always interesting. I'm not sure it's interesting in a good way. I'm quite disappointed actually, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But
we will definitely get into it. I'll tell you what, one word for it is tiring. It is tiring, especially for Tottenham Hotspur fans. We've also got Josh back on the channel with us. Josh, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris. Nice to be back on. And transfer deadline day. It's always it's a big thing in football, isn't it? It's always fun to watch the Sky Sports or your channel or seeing what's going on. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting hour. There's obviously no PEDRO Porro news yet, but hopefully when we're on this stream, there'll be a video and we can all talk about that.
Yeah, we are expecting the PEDRO Porro news very, very soon. Gianluca Di Marzio and Fabrizio Romano have stated that the contract has been signed. We are literally waiting for the official announcement from Spurs, which we hope will be very, very soon. Well, it will definitely be within the next hour. Craig, let's start the show before we talk about transfers. How are you feeling as a Spurs fan right now?
What with our business so far, do you mean, or just in general?
In general, let's talk about the business so far. Of course, we've got one confirmed signing for the first team, Danjuma on loan from Villarreal. We'll get into more detail about him shortly. We've also got one confirmed signing for the development team, which is Sunsut Bell from Chelsea. Three players have left on loan, White, Spence and Brian Hill. We are expecting news that Doherty is going to Atletico Madrid. I tell you what, if anyone has done well out of this January transfer window so far, it is definitely Matt Doherty. Craig, how are you feeling about it?
Well, if this is obviously only going to be the only business we've done, if fingers crossed Porro gets across the line, but there's not going to be any late dramas with an hour to go. So I still think we're a bit light, to be honest. I expected us to do a bit more business. I mean, I know you've asked me how many players did I think Spurs would get in, and I've always said two. But obviously you hope and you think yourself, I thought three or four would have. We know where we're light still. We're light at centre back, and I still can't believe that we didn't go and get a centre back. But on the flip side, if you can't get the centre backs that you want, do you go and just get a player for the sake of buying a player? And I don't agree with that, because we've been burnt with that before with the likes of Kevin Wimmer, for example. Would you be happy if we got another Kevin Wimmer in, or a Joe Roden? So what's the point if you can't get your targets? Then what's the point in spending the money on it? So I do kind of understand that.
Sorry, Craig. Sorry, there's some breaking news from Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. They have just stated we have mutually agreed to terminate Matt Doherty's contract to enable him to join another club. Thank you for everything, Doc. So this is not a loan. He is gone.
That's incredible. They've terminated his contract. That is incredible.
Chris, you're going to give him a shirt back now?
Do you know what? And I know this is a minor thing, but that was Harry Kane's kind of best mate as well at Spurs, wasn't it? Matt Doherty. They were really tight. So,
Sorry, Craig. It also says here we should like to thank Matt for his service and wish him well for the future.
Do you reckon there's something else behind that, or has Doherty been told? Do you think that he's going to be third choice behind Porro and Royale, with Spence coming back next year, or There's been a couple of them this year, isn't it? Not at Tottenham, but contracts being terminated. That's incredible. I mean, nobody saw that coming, did they? Nobody. So first I heard today that he was obviously going on loan, that his name was even being talked about. I thought he was kind of a shoo-in, and it would be Emerson that would go the other way, but they can't. Seems they can't get rid of him.
I think there's more investment in Emerson, isn't there, for the future if they're going to sell him. I think the problem with Doherty was his performances just weren't top 4 base, if that's what we're aiming for. And in recent weeks, what was he really doing?
No, I agree with that. Yeah,
but obviously
it's still a shock.
With the new signing coming in, I think for me it was always one of them was going to have to go, as well as Spence on loan. And
and the fact, and the fact Spence is, it seems like both parties agreed that it was just going to be a straight loan, no intention with an obligation to buy or anything. So Spence obviously, and the club obviously see his future still at Tottenham. But obviously that Doherty is big news. So you'd expect Porro to take the 2 shirt anyway, assuming he wants it.
I think so.
I think though, Craig, it's probably fair to say that it is probably a bit of a surprise because Antonio Conte always spoke quite highly of Matt Doherty.
He did. He called him Matthew, didn't he? He always referred to almost like a little boy. My Matthew. But yeah, it's bizarre actually. More I think about it, because he was, especially before he got injured last year, that Matty Cash tackle. He was the first choice right back. He was actually playing pretty well, wasn't he? He had a run of games that he was playing well, and I think Conte really liked him. So whether something's gone on there that you'll never, it just seems bizarre to me to terminate somebody's contract. I'm
shocked that Emerson's outlasted him personally, because I thought he always did a good job, Matt Doherty, when he was. But yeah, he wasn't the best right back in the league, and no one ever said he was. But he did a job, a better job in my opinion than someone like Emerson. So I'm shocked that we're left with Emerson, and if Porro obviously gets across the line, because I would have personally preferred like Doherty as a backup. I thought he always kind of put a shift in. So that's really disappointing to see that his contract's been terminated. That's a right shock. And also we don't get any money at all, because you might think there might be a couple of million a loan fee or something from Atletico Madrid, but now we've got absolutely nothing. It's a bit shocking. You always get these shocking news on transfer deadline day, so it's interesting, isn't it?
Do you think we're weaker, sort of like right wing back? Obviously, Porro's the best out, one of the best out there. But I'm not tempting fate here. But saying he pulls a hammy in his first game and he's out for a month, are we in a weaker position we were before the transfer window?
Do you know what? I thought that earlier, and I thought I'm not going to say it on this show to be down. It's a weird one, because Matt Doherty's played 16 competitive games under Conte this season, and it's funny because whenever we do these chats, especially after games, the majority of the guests, I always ask that question: who is our best right wing back at the club? And the majority of people have said Matt Doherty, although a number of people have come on and said that Emerson Royale is a better defender, but going forward, Matt Doherty is better going forward. What did you want to say on that, Rich?
Yeah, I don't rate Doherty at all. I think Phil on the chat said it perfectly. Just to say, we need to be ruthless. Doherty isn't where Tottenham need to be, and so if that's the case, we need to get rid of him. The thing is with Emerson is obviously the club's seeing a ceiling on the money they can get from him, so it's more of a money kind of decision. I don't think there's a lot of difference in the quality between Emerson and Doherty, with both having different small attributes that add value. Clearly, we're getting a better player in this January transfer window. Hopefully, if it's announced, and I just still think we're light in so many. How many times have we spoke about the player that can move the ball from midfield to the forward three to kind of thread those kind of killer balls through that we haven't replaced since Ericsson. And there's been opportunity in this window. I think there's been some players. And also, why is the club not gone, actually, why don't we get a loan player for loan player's sake? And actually just gone, we know this player is not in the grand scheme of things going to be the future of that position for the starting 11, but potentially we might need a plan B to Conte's normal kind of play. Get somebody in that gives us that option from the bench. Well, I think we can all admit that sometimes we look on the bench and go, where's the options? Danjuma now, obviously, he came on. Yes, it was the FA Cup. Presented us with some great options there, but did we really need that? Did we where other positions were where we actually needed? I think again the club's just been a little bit short-sighted on actually where they've put all their efforts, but I might be wrong.
Can I just jump in there, Chris? Sorry, Michael Bridges has said on Sky Sports that the reason Doherty's contract was terminated is something to do with the FIFA loan limit, and we've got I guess too many players out on loan that are not locally trained or locally homegrown. I don't know. He's literally just come on and said it. So it's something to do with a FIFA loan limit, because as we'll probably cover off later, we have got a lot of players out on loan at the moment.
There are a lot, yeah. I was going to go back to the Danjuma signing, Rich. I think it was more of an opportunity rather than actually planning for this signing. And
he's a good player. He's a good player. You look at what he did in the Champions League a couple of seasons ago. Clearly, he's got an eye for a goal. He's got great ability on the ball. Potentially, he could be a great addition to the squad. But right now, if we're looking at obviously money, if we're looking at the opportunity to fill other spaces in the team that then present us with the opportunity to move into the top four, because we've still got that opportunity. I just think we're just not taking it. There's other clubs that are spending million after million. Like Bournemouth have spent, was it 45 million in this window? Bought a great centre back from is it Dynamo Kiev?
Rick, for me personally, I feel worried about this transfer window because I don't feel that we have done enough. Obviously, we definitely need a centre back in. We do need a creative midfielder. We do need a lot of improvements in this team. If Pedro Porro does get over the line in the next 55 minutes, I think it would be a good signing. But these transfer windows have got to be about improving your starting 11. I think Pedro Porro does that. Danjuma, no disrespect whatsoever, but I do feel that we've got enough players in those positions.
I think the good thing about Pedro is that because he can take dead ball, he can control dead ball situations, so corners, free kicks, maybe another option, penalties as well. You look at Showreel, obviously very good on those dead ball situations. Can cross left and right foot, might free up Sonny into more of a different position that gives him a little bit more space that obviously he has struggled with in recent weeks. So it might alter the dynamic of the team in a positive way, and it might free up some of our more creative players in the final third.
Rich, just going back to Matt Doherty, your favourite moment in a Tottenham shirt for Matt Doherty?
Oh, he's done some clangers, hasn't he? It's like there was one double kick in the box where he should have shot. I think that was one of my favourite moments. There's not been any, I don't think. I just the funniest thing for me a couple of minutes ago when that news come through, and I just saw it on my phone when I read it out. Craig, Josh, and I were all like, "What?" And you're just sitting there laughing. Yeah, no. One of my close friends is a Wolves fan, and I think he was driving him to Spurs when we signed him. He was like going, he's had maybe half a season that he's played actually really well, but it was more about the end product than the actual balls that he was putting in. And again, I think that was a little bit of an opportunity that Spurs saw. Let's get Doherty in because what he could maybe produce for the likes of Harry Kane. Yeah. But then obviously massively the play then massively changed, and Doherty's not had any of those opportunities. I think he'd played maybe 4 or 5 games where he'd come inside from that wing back position and had a little bit more of a creative role in that deeper midfield position. But wing back wise, done nothing. And actually, I think he's more suited in maybe a back 4 where he doesn't have to do so much tireless work with no end product.
It's interesting, Craig. You picked up on this point about him being best mates with Harry Kane. That is exactly what I thought earlier today when Fabrizio Romano stated that he would be going off to Atletico Madrid on loan. I thought that may affect Harry Kane in some way. Josh, what do you think about the Matt Doherty departure?
Yeah, I'm a bit. I was just thinking about it then when you chaps were talking, and yeah, I find it a bit shocking, to be honest, because like Richard talks about Doherty not kind of being up to your standards, but then I just think if the club's being ruthless, then I'm not quite sure if getting rid of 2 right backs in Doherty out of the club and Spence out on loan. We all know that Spence is not Conte's favourite, but leaving Emerson, who I don't think the fans are very confident in Emerson Royale. I'm just going to speak very plainly. I'm not confident in him at all. Yeah, he may have some good defensive stats, but I don't think we're going to get anywhere with
Doherty's no better. Like, it's no better at all. I think.
I know, but I just don't see anything in Emerson. I literally don't see anything.
If Conte's whole play is around his wing backs getting forward, delivering those balls in, I ain't seeing that from Doherty at all, ever.
Yeah, I think it's a big problem, Rich. It's been a big problem all season. Every Spurs fan has said exactly the same thing after every game. Not enough comes from the wing backs, particularly the right hand side. So Pedro Porro coming in, he has got to be better than what we've got currently. Of course, Doherty's now gone out. Jed Spence has now gone out. We're left with Emerson Royale, which of course, he's been heavily criticised by every Spurs fan after many games played. But it's funny, when you talk about being ruthless, we've got all of these players out on loan. If you wanted to be ruthless, perhaps we ought to terminate some of these other contracts or trying to offload them permanently and not on loan.
The difference is the value, though, isn't it? The club then see a value on players like maybe Tanganga, who needs to go out on loan and kind of build his confidence at maybe a different club. And some of the other players that we've got that maybe, like as Spurs fans, we kind of see like season after season just making up the numbers and not adding value. Look, I'm a professional athlete, and I know that everybody that comes into the team needs to add value.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't just, because of the length of the contract of some of these players, you can't just keep them around the club if your aspirations are going up and challenging for silverware. The problem is that we've got too many players that are just happy to sit on the bench and not challenge for the first team.
Well, most of these players, if not all of them, will be returning in the summer, Rich. That'll be interesting. Josh, let's come back to you because, of course, we have got one confirmed signing, Arnaut Danjuma. Of course, he made his debut on Saturday against Preston, scoring. On loan until June from Villarreal with a buy option worth 30 million euros. He said, as soon as Tottenham came through for me, it was a no-brainer. It's a massive club, brilliant coach, brilliant staff, brilliant club, and the facilities are unbelievable. I'm really looking forward to working with Antonio Conte. What did you make of his debut on Saturday against Preston? I know he only come on in the 71st minute, but he scored 16 minutes into his debut, assisted by Kulusevski. 26 years old. He is a winger, which I think a lot of us, if we said, what do we need in the January transfer window? I don't think many of us would have said a winger stroke forward. He does have Premier League experience, although he played 19 games for Bournemouth in the 2019-2020 season, didn't score a goal in the Premier League, played for them in the Championship, scored 15 times in 33 appearances. He scored 6 times in 17 appearances for Villarreal this season in all competitions. What do you think of this signing?
For me, first thing that comes into my head is he's almost like a like-for-like Bergwijn. We got rid of Steven Bergwijn, and he just gives me the same kind of vibes as Steven Bergwijn. It's like a winger, obviously same nation, they're both Dutch, same kind of attributes, rapid on the wing, likes to score a goal. But I quite like Danjuma. I thought he was very good for Villarreal from some, especially in the Champions League. Some of the games I was watching last season or season before. He was quite lethal, especially on the break. But then if you talk about what the club needs, I'm not sure he's exactly what we need. Obviously, Brian Hill's gone off on loan to Sevilla. Maybe, and I think Lucas is still injured. He's just coming back. He's obviously scored against Arsenal in an under-23 game. I'm not sure if he's exactly what we need. We're dying for a centre-back. We're dying for a creative midfielder. I don't know. I don't think he's kind of it's just not a great fit. I think he's not really going to get much game time. I mean, Richarlison can't even get game time. How's he going to get any game time? It's just a bit of a silly signing, to be honest. If he's not going to get any game time and he's just there to sit on the bench for half a season, I don't really see any point in it, to be honest. I think we should have gone and got another centre-back because I do actually I agree with what Richard said about too many players kind of leeching off the club, kind of staying here past their sell-by date, as you might be able to say. When you look at other teams like Chelsea, who completely revamped their team. Look, I'm not advocating for us to spend £700 million or however much money they've spent, which is absolutely outrageous. However, I think it's really important to revamp the team. And when you've got players like Davis, Sanchez, Dyer, they've all been here for far too long. And Pochettino used to talk about competing a lot. It was his favourite things was saying, we've got to compete. We're not going to be able to compete. With the amount of money that other clubs are spending, we're going to be left right behind if we don't start revamping this team. It's a shame we didn't go for Hincapié, the South American centre-back, because he looks really promising. He was actually really good at the World Cup, but it looks like we're going to try and get him in the summer. But, I mean, if we really want to compete and we really want to show some kind of ambition at this football club, we should have gone and nicked him now. Because in the summer, he's probably going to have quite a good season. There's going to be lots of teams after him. Everyone's price is going to go up. We've got to spend the money now. And I think it was Paul O'Keefe on Twitter said that we've got about £30 million to spend. Well, we just got 2 loans in. I know, obviously, Pedro Porro is a £45 million deferred payment in lots of instalments, but he's a loan at the moment. So we haven't even spent 30 mil. We haven't even put that money into the team. And I've seen a lot more on Twitter saying there's a lot of money available at the club. It's sloshing around, I think someone said. And we're just not really investing it. And I don't know, I just feel like we're going to get left behind if we don't invest, especially with the likes of Newcastle and with a lot of money from Arabia. And you've got the Chelseas with American money. And it's like a lot of fans are not very happy. And I think there's going to be some unhappy fans if this continues.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's come to you on the same question about Arnold Danjuma. What have you made of this signing? Because I feel like I agree with a lot of what Josh has said there. I feel that he's a good player. I don't feel that he improves our starting 11, which I think is what the January transfer window and, of course, the summer windows are about, improving the starting 11, especially when you want to show intent to someone like Antonio Conte and show ambition to people like Harry Kane to try and keep him at the club. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good player, but I'm with Josh. I don't think he's going to get a lot of game time.
No, I agree with what you both just said, to be honest with you. He was an opportunistic signing, isn't he? The way we swooped in at the 11th hour and nicked him off Everton anyway. I refuse to believe we were tracking him from the start because you just gone and got him. The fact it's a loan. So, it don't make sense, that one. He's basically cover, as far as in my eyes. He's just cover for... Perhaps they don't know what Lucas Moura's situation is going to be like. They probably knew Brian Hill was going to be going out on loan, so they've just got him in as a backup. He's not going to improve the starting 11 in any way, shape, or form. I hope he proves to be wrong. I'd love for him to come in and be challenging for those front 3 positions, but I just can't see it. I just don't think he's good enough. But that's a bit unfair because I don't know enough about him to make that comparison, but let's see how he does over the next few games. If he's banging in the goals, I'm sure we'll all be pleased. But I still don't think I do agree with what Josh said. I just don't think we've done enough this window to try and push for the top 4. I mean, I still think we can get in that top 4, but the fact is so important to bring in the players in the summer. It's all very well saying we'll get these players in the summer. To attract some of the best players, you need to have Champions League football. So it's kind of vicious circle, really. I mean, if you was, I've said it on here before, if you go out in the summer and you've got 150, 200 million to spend, you could go and get Gvardiol and Bastoni and a decent goalkeeper, and that's plugged 3 massive holes. Yeah, you're going to have to spend 250, 200 million to get them, but that's what big clubs do. Do you know what I mean? And you know, are you going to get somebody like a Gvardiol or Bastoni if we haven't got Champions League football next season? I'm not sure you would, but money talks, doesn't it? You know,
yeah.
I don't know what else to say on it, really. We always seem to be 2 players short. But you go around any other club's fans and they'll say exactly the same thing. You know, I bet there's Chelsea fans that are still a bit peed off, but they haven't got a number. You know, we all laugh, but they haven't replaced Lukaku. They haven't got a striker. They need a striker. They've bought everyone but, admittedly, but you know, Man U, they've lost Eriksen till May, haven't they? So they've gone and got, or they're going to be getting Sabitzer. That, you know, you've got Liverpool in a bit of a shambles at the moment. Their fans, what's that?
They've just signed, Chelsea have just signed Fernandes. Here we go, Fabrizio Romano for 120 million.
See,
yeah,
every team around us are really strengthening, and even if we do get this Pedro Porro deal over the line, which there is now 42 minutes left of the transfer window, you know, we all feel, I feel like a lot of the Spurs fans feel that, you know, the right wing back position should have been addressed in the summer without any question or doubt, and now it's gone on, you know, to the very, very last minutes of this January transfer window. You know, we do need to do so much more in this window. Rich, what do you think? Let's just wrap up talking about Danjuma. What do you make of Danjuma's the sign of him?
I think, like you say, it's more opportunistic for the club to kind of jump in ahead of the curve and take him off Everton when it looked like he'd already signed for Everton. When you look about what he's done previously in the Champions League, gives us that experience. I think as well, an opportunity off the bench when things might not be going well for the front 3. I think he clearly showed in the cameo that when he came on against Preston, that is good with the feet in between his ball. Decision making was good. Dropped into the pocket. Offered a different kind of player, maybe across that front 3. I think him as a signing, I was a little bit surprised because I'd have rather the club gone for other targets in other areas that I spoke about a lot. Maybe that centre-back position, that attacking midfielder that could open the door for the guys up front. But I think he's going to offer something. I think we might be surprised on the impact he has. And it just takes, obviously, we've got a couple of players that have struggled with injury through this season. Obviously, Sonny with his eye socket injury and Richarlison, obviously, with his injury. If that's a recurrence from the World Cup, I think. If that's the case, is that a long-term kind of injury or is it just a short-term kind of knock? So we just need to be aware of he might play more games than we think.
For those people just joining us on the live stream, there is 40 minutes left of the January transfer window. We are waiting for the official announcement from Tottenham Hotspur Football Club on Pedro Porro. But if you have just joined us, the club have terminated the contract out of Matt Doherty. So at the moment, the only right wing back we have at the club is Emerson Royale. Richard's loving the news, by the way. Let's talk about Pedro Porro. Josh, let's come to you first. What do you make of Pedro Porro? He is a 23-year-old right wing back, a Spain international with 1 cap. He's been at Sporting 3 seasons, including this one. He's played 67 league games for them, scoring 9 times, 17 appearances in domestic cup, scoring twice, 14 appearances in European competition, scoring once. So a total of 98 appearances in competitive competition for the Portuguese side, scoring 12 times. Won various trophies at Sporting, named in the Portugal Team of the Year for the last couple of seasons, and Defender of the Month in the Portuguese League 5 times. Now, everybody loves a signing. Everybody is excited by this signing. Is he really as good as people think?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's a really good little player. And as I said to you on the phone, it's a weird connection because if you've watched Chris's channel for quite a long time, me and Chris met in Girona, and Pedro Porro himself is from Girona. Like, he wasn't born there, but he played there as a young boy. And Girona played Tottenham in a friendly, and he actually played in that game. So maybe he was inspired to join us since that game when they absolutely destroyed us, like 4-1. But yeah, he's a great player, Pedro Porro. I mainly, to be fair, watched him a lot in those games against Sporting Lisbon in the Champions League against us. He ripped us apart, to be quite honest, in both of them. Especially, he was quite impressive at White Hart Lane, I thought. I remember being in the South Stand thinking, oh, he's quite dangerous. I think we drew that game. But yeah, he's a great little player. And I'm glad we've actually identified a spot in right wing back and gone, right, we're going to improve. Because they've spent a lot of money since Kyle Walker departed for Man City on trying to replace a Tottenham right wing back or a right back. And pretty much every single one's failed. So hopefully, with Pedro Porro, a young Spanish lad, hopefully he can kind of excel in that position, because it's what we really need, and it's what Conte needs for his system. We're dying for wing backs who can bomb down the right and left wing and kind of put in balls, because we just haven't had that at all. And it's almost, you need to almost say that you can't even judge Conte until he's got his own players, he's got his own system. Hopefully, he's Pedro Porro is the kind of exact player that Conte's asked for. Hopefully it's not another Jed Spence situation where Levy's gone, oh, this kid looks really good against Tottenham in the group stage, let's sign him. But I think it's a Conte signing because he's so much money, because we don't kind of normally drop 45, 50 million pound on a player. With I would be very shocked if Conte hasn't gone, I'm going to play him, because I really don't want, like, even against this Man City game on the weekend, I've got to come all the way up from Exeter at uni, and I want to see Pedro Porro start, and I want to see Pedro Porro start. Then in these games, I don't want to see Emerson starting and Pedro Porro with his bum on the bench, because he's got to get straight.
I want to see you, Josh, in an Emerson Royale shirt.
Oh, I'll get a Pedro Porro shirt, honestly.
Can you imagine, after all the excitement of this, well, stress as well of the January transfer window, Pedro Porro finally gets over the line, and on Sunday against Manchester City, Emerson Royale is in the starting 11. Pedro Porro's on the bench. Can you just imagine?
It's going to happen. No, it's
gonna happen. You know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen.
Oh no, can't do. Craig,
yeah, it will. It will.
Craig, what's your opinion on Pedro Porro?
For me, he's a Conte signing. I think he's rubber stamped this, and I think it was one of the top targets. Yeah, he's approved. As you can see by the way that the deal's been done, when it looked like it was slipping away. Daniel Levy, for all his faults, actually got it over the line in the end. Now, you could say what you like about the way we do business, but he did get it done, where in the past he might well have just walked away, whereas I think he would have known it would have been an absolute PR disaster for the club and Conte and everything if he didn't get it done. So he's probably gone out and spent a bit more money than he wanted to. He probably does with every transfer, but he got it done in the end. And it was obviously, if we said before the window, what were the key positions? Right wing back was one of those positions, and it looks like we've got our number one target, which makes a nice change, rather than getting in a second or third choice or fourth choice just to plug a gap, which I said earlier is no good. We've been there and done that so many times, it just doesn't work. And how many right backs have we burnt through since Kyle Walker? You've had Serge Aurier, you've had Trippier filled in for a little while, and he's become a better player, I think, since he left Tottenham. But then you had Serge Aurier, then you had who else did we have? Well, Emerson Royale, then you had Matt Doherty. None of them have worked out. Jed Spence hasn't had a kick of the ball yet. So we've just look, we've kind of downgraded every time we've tried to replace a right back until now. So perhaps this is perhaps we're on the way up from that. But are we in a better place? I mean, I think the question for me is, I've been asking myself, are we in a better place with the squad come tomorrow morning than we were in December?
Well,
that's the key question.
If the Pedro Porro deal gets over the line, you've basically swapped out Pedro Porro for Doherty and Spence. Spence, I don't think you can really count because he didn't get any game time. Although he played in 6 games all season. They were like for a minute or two. It was like 5 minutes of Premier League football, which was absolutely crazy when we signed him in the summer. Hasn't really been given an opportunity. And then you've swapped out Brian Hill for Danjuma. So when you're saying have we really improved, I don't think we have, Craig. I would give this transfer window, if it finishes in just over 30 minutes time, with these 2 signings, I'm not very happy with this transfer window whatsoever. I feel that we need to do a whole lot more.
No, I agree.
You don't look happy, mate. No,
I'm not, because all the teams
Chris,
around
listen. I look. We've definitely improved the team, man. Like Brian Gill, I think showed glimpses of what he. 4 out of 10, maybe a 4 out of 10. It's probably better than what we had before, though. So I think you got to laugh as well, because again, the club's kind of gone. The fans have gone. This is what we need. We need X, Y, and Z, and you've provided us with Y in that right wing back position. And they've gone all in, and they nearly missed the bucket as well. Do you know what I mean? Literally all in on one signing, and that's it.
I think it was worrying, Rich, a month or so ago when Antonio Conte came out and said, we don't need defenders.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? And that's where we've been struggling all season. Ramiro's out. We're done, aren't we, really? It literally, like, died.
And then in the summer...
form's been awful.
The summer, you've got 11 players coming back from loan that they've got to sod about trying to get out, either sell or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a whole team. You're going to have over 30, what's that? What have we got at the moment? 23, 24 players? You're going to have nearly 40 players turn up at Hotspur Way for pre-season at this rate. And half of them are crap.
I'm going to put an unpopular opinion out there. I don't think that Porro is a Antonio Conte signing. I feel like it's a club signing. Rich, do you agree or not?
No, I think it's got to be a Conte signing. I think if he's not a Conte signing, it's not just a PR disaster because of what the club's kind of said around supporting the manager, but also potentially with contract negotiations, not just for Antonio, but also Harry, in big Harry Kane. I think it's just going to have a massive impact, knock-on effect. I think it's got to be a Conte signing. And I think it will be a success. I think it will be surprised on how he adapts quickly to the English game. Again, like Josh was saying about obviously how well he played at White Hart Lane. I watched that game. I've seen a couple of sporting games. Somewhere I didn't see too much of his defensive work. It was more flying up the wing and kind of cutting inside and making opportunities for their kind of front players. But it must be like Antonio Conte, especially after the Spence debacle, where he didn't obviously sanction the signing and basically told the board he's not playing him because he doesn't feel he fits into the kind of player spec that he actually expects, but has to do a lot of work to get up to the speed, the endurance, also the kind of the technical ability that he wants, the mental technical ability he wants the players. Spence didn't have that apparently. So for me, I think it's got to be a Conte signing.
Isn't it a worry, Josh, the amount of business that other clubs are doing around us, especially our rivals such as Arsenal and Chelsea, and we haven't done that much?
Yeah, it definitely is. It does. To be quite honest, it's not. It's just the same old, isn't it? It's like it always seems to happen. Even like the most, I don't even know what the word is, but like Arsenal going and nicking Jorginho off Chelsea, we never do that. We never go do something like that. I think that's actually quite a clever signing. I feel like we never stick our boot out and do something like that, kind of a bit risky. Go and get we tried it with Bissouma, but look what happened there. Like one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, and it's just just hasn't worked at all. It's like chalk and cheese almost. Like it doesn't look anything like he did at Brighton. And we just go out and get 2 loan signings. That's just what they are. It's just a typical window at Tottenham. It's just a little bit. It's a bit underwhelming, isn't it? It's like, as you said, I think someone said it was 4 out of 10, and you're obviously all disappointed. is it even 4 out of 10? It's almost like a 2 out of 10 window. I mean, a lot of fans were talking about getting a new goalkeeper in, trying to like agree a deal for a new goalkeeper. I know it's unrealistic, but nothing's been explored. We really haven't been linked with hardly any players either, which is quite shocking. And I don't know if this is partly due to Paratici getting kind of knocked up in prison, because I mean, we can't. We're a top nine. We are. Although all the economics came out, all of the financial details came out, we are the 9th biggest football club in the world in terms of economics and financial power, and we're going around moving like Gillingham. Like, honestly, I just don't get it.
Josh, you know what's crossed my mind about it? You know what crossed my mind about it? You were just saying there. Actually, a light bulb go off in my head. Discount Porro. Porro's on loan. We've got an obligation to buy, right? But then Danjuma's only here for 6 months. So the fact we haven't done loads of business, does that perhaps strike to you that the club know Conte's not going to be here after the summer?
This is that was exactly going to be my question, Craig, to all three of you. Do you think Antonio Conte is going to be here next season with this transfer window? If Porro does get over the line, do you think he's going to be here next year? Is this enough? Is he going to be happy? Craig, you first.
I'll stick to what I said last time. I think he's going to be gone in the summer. I think the club know he's going to be gone in the summer. And regardless of the fact you've got a director of football who's supposed to buy players for the club and not the manager, it seems to be working the other way a little bit with Conte, that Conte needs to rubber stamp the signings. But if they know a manager's not going to be there come June 1st or July the 1st, and there's going to be a new manager in, whether that's Potts, whether that's whoever, then they're not going to be going large in this window, are they? It kind of all, when you piece it together like that, it all adds up, doesn't it? So no, I don't think Conte's going to be here. He's probably not for anything sinister. It's probably just that he wants a sabbatical and he wants to go home and spend time with his family, to be honest, because he never stays around anywhere for long. He's not a project manager. We all know that. So I think you just got to enjoy it while he's here. I said before, I thought if they know that he's going in the summer, then they should just come to some agreement with him now and get the new manager in. But, you know, that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is the players seem to still be playing for him. They love playing for him. And, you know, just go with him till the end of the season. If the players and the club know that and they're all comfortable with that, then go with it. And bet your bottom dollar they've already got somebody lined up for the summer. And then perhaps we'll get a few bigger names in the summer. Perhaps they're going to throw everything at this. What do the club want? Champions League. If you give the club a choice between Champions League or an FA Cup, the club are going to say all day long they're going to say Champions League, whereas a lot of fans, me included, would say FA Cup. But
this is another reason why it disappoints me in this transfer window, though, Craig, because you think that we want Champions League football in this glorious stadium that we have. You know, keeping Harry Kane at the club, you need Champions League football. Have we put enough money into this transfer window? Have we put enough into this window to get Champions League football? I doubt it. And of course, Conte said a few weeks ago, we need a miracle to get Champions League football again. And I tend to agree with him. Rich, do you think Conte will be here next year?
I think last time I was on, I said that he'd probably be gone by the end of the season. Because
sticking with it?
Yeah, I think so. Because of how the club's
So how is Porro a Conte signing if you think he's going to leave at the end of the season?
Yeah, and I don't know. I've always had an inkling that Conte's either rubber stamp this, or whoever's going to step in after Conte's also had an inkling into the kind of the Porro signing. I think I've always thought that maybe Poch would come back after Conte. And again, I don't know why. I just had an inkling about that he'd come back and then just do a massive rebuild. I think the problem with Conte's football is that I think it's getting a bit tiresome when you look at other teams, how they kind of really take on the opposition. We've really struggled with that this season. Even I was watching the Newcastle game earlier. First half, incredible. Like Longstaff should have scored 4 in the first half. He scored 2, and they won, and they're now in the League Cup final. But But yeah, just like Conte's really struggled to do that, and the odd occasion that it's actually all clicked together, it's been in games against opposition like Preston, and there were still elements of the game that we struggled. I think Conte's like Josh and Craig said as well around how long he actually stays at clubs. I think he's a big family man. His roots are where they are, and he kind of really wants to invest time in his family, and that's why 3 or 4 years of the project, it never lasts any more than the 4 years. So hence the reason why I think if he got Spurs back into the Champions League, he still might go.
Josh, what do you think Conte's thinking right now with Danjuma coming in? If Porro does get over the line, these 2 signings, and of course a number of the players going out the door as well on loan, and of course the termination of Matt Doherty's contract, how do you think Conte's feeling about this window?
He's probably not very impressed, is he? It's like one player's coming basically who's improved our side, or the starting 11 in Porro. Could you argue he's been backed this window? Probably not. If you compare to other sides, if you use comparison, he hasn't been backed. And your question to the other chaps, would he be here at the end of the season? I think he's a very emotional man, Antonio Conte. I think you see it quite clearly when we lose. His mental health, I think he struggles with it. He said it before. He doesn't sleep when Tottenham lose. So I think it's difficult to kind of ascertain whether he'll be here at the end of the season or not, based on like what we've seen so far. We need to wait and see where we are at the end of the season. I think if we finish top 4, there'll be kind of an optimistic outlook. We're in the Champions League again. He'll stay. He's not going to leave if we're 4th. I just don't think you've got to be a realist. He's not going to leave. He's got players here in like Kulusevski, Bentancur, Romero's. They're his players, I feel, and he'll want to build upon that in the summer. But I mean, bringing in another manager, I think the issue with Tottenham is there's such huge and fundamental disconnects and kind of schisms that are emerging at the club between multi-layer, like lots of layers between the fans and the manager. People don't like his football. Between the ownership and the fans, a lot of people are calling for the Levy and Enoch to get out. There's disconnect between the manager and the ownership because Conte probably doesn't even feel like he's being backed, and Daniel Levy's making signings behind his back. They need to fix these big kind of schisms at the club for us to even move forward. Because when your own house isn't in order, as you see in politics, you're not gonna improve. You're not gonna move forward. You're not gonna be able to compete. We've got to actually sort our own problems out at the club first, and then move on as a football club.
It's from ownership, isn't it? Ownership.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, and we need to start sorting them out. We need to start having some quite frank conversations. And I did see some quite positive stuff about like some Qatar investment. I don't know if that can help us compete with the likes of Man City and Chelsea, but I think we really are in need of kind of not a fresh start in terms of management, but maybe we are in need of a fresh ownership, fresh investment, a new outlook for the club, because there's no excuses anymore. We've got a new stadium. They make so much money. It's like £6 million a game or something. The money is not an excuse anymore, but we're just not seeing it. We're not seeing.
Also, days like today, I think we want the excitement. We want to be kind of sitting on the edge of our seats, going, "Who's Spurs going to bring in?" We want that exciting player, Van der Vaart kind of player that comes in and literally gets us excited about kind of going to watch him play and kind of destroying defences and kind of controlling games. And that's the reason why I get pissed all the time, because that attacking central midfielder, we need to go out and spend the money, open that wallet and get #1 target of Antonio Conte or whoever the manager is at the time, and just go for it, because that player, whether he's in this system or not, can come in and change the game.
Well, we've got 19 minutes, Rich. I'm still sitting on the edge of my seat, waiting. Now, is it the fact that, a lot of fans are calling for a creative midfielder? Is it the fact that Antonio Conte doesn't want one because he doesn't want to change his formation? And the other thing I was going to say is about centre backs. You know, a month or so ago, he came out and said to the press, we don't need centre backs. Do you think he really feels that players like Ben Davies, Eric Dyer, Clement Lenglet, do you really feel that he feels that they are good enough?
Is that for me, Chris? Sorry.
For you, Craig, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, he must do. Why would he? Unless he's not throwing, they're going to be. Unless he wants to, don't want to throw him under the bus. Is he going to come out in a press conference and say, Ben Davies, Clement Lenglet, and Eric Dyer, they're all shit, so we want to upgrade them? I mean, obviously, there's polite ways of saying that, but you know. Is he going to say that we need to strengthen centre back because I think we're light? We know we're not light. We've got 5 or 6 centre backs, but they're just not good enough. So, I mean, he must see it. If he's a world-class manager, he must know that our centre backs just aren't good enough. I mean, the fact that we've conceded so many goals of late kind of tell you our defence is pretty shabby. And the goalkeeper's made some mistakes as well. And Josh, just going back to what you said about Qatar investment, Daniel Levy's probably going to call it the Vicks Vapor Rub Stadium, and that's the only Qatar investment you're going to have. But it's an odd thing. I thought that at the time. That for him to come out and say I'm okay with centre backs, yet we're conceding tons of goals.
Mm.
It doesn't add up to me.
We're not strong enough in that position.
No, we're not. And look, Eric Dyer, he's got a lot of critics, but apparently he is a leader at the back. And I would say there are better centre backs we should be going for. But for a squad centre back, I think he'd do a job. But you know, there are better centre backs we should be going for and aiming higher than that. Yeah. I don't think he's that bad a centre back. He's prone to an error, but I think you look at most centre backs, unless you've got the real top tier centre backs like Virgil van Dijk, most centre backs will make an error.
You know what he's not doing at the moment, which he was doing earlier in the season, is really driving forward with the ball. And when the pitch opens up to him, either taking the shot on and testing the keeper, instead of those long balls that he tries to play like Toby did. And he's just he's not that kind of player on the ball.
And looking at the squad, it doesn't really matter what manager you've got in. When you've got Heung-min Son, Harry Kane, Romero, Højbjerg, Bentancur, Kulusevski, all of them are going to get into any manager's team. You know, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter what manager you've got. Probably Porro as well you're throwing there. So it's all about buying players for a manager. There's not many managers in the world that wouldn't play those players. Do you know what I mean? So that's the other way of looking at it. It's just the players around them aren't good enough.
If we have a new manager in the summer, Craig, we could be having the likes of Harry Winks and Ndombele in the centre midfield again.
Oh, yeah, they'll get another time. Don't forget, Harry Winks started the Champions League final, though. So,
yeah. Rich, let's come to you. Now, Jed Spence has been loaned out to Rennes. As I said earlier, he's had very limited game time this season under Antonio Conte. Just 6 appearances, 4 in the Premier League, just 5 Premier League minutes, a sub-appearance in the FA Cup and a sub-appearance in the League Cup. It is a straight loan until the end of the season. Reports are stating that 3 Premier League clubs wanted him, plus Atletico Madrid also wanted him. He chose Rennes, and he believes his long-term future is at Spurs. What do you make of this loan move?
Yeah, he's obviously gone for game time to prove the club that he's got ability, and maybe he's guaranteed first team game time at Rennes, and maybe not the others. I think he's just not had the opportunity. Just coming on for 5 or 6 minutes, how can you have an impact on a game, especially in that position, where it depends on what the momentum of the games. If you're behind and you come on, then you're having to make an impact. If you're already ahead, then you might just be containing the game. So, and I don't think there's a lot you can do within those 4 or 5 minutes. I think some of the games we played, it was a great opportunity to get Jed on the pitch and to give him a half or full game and then have eyes solely on him, especially when the other 2 options were no better, really. I think having that youth on your side and that really kind of that enthusiasm. But I just think that Conte didn't have the trust that he would actually adapt to the style of play that he wants, obviously, the team to play against what he was playing the year before when he was at Forest and was so successful. And it's a great move for Jed to get away for a season. It'd be good to track what he's actually doing. I still think there's a great player there, whether it's a top 4 player. I just think it's a player that maybe could be a backup for Porro for the 24 season.
There's some breaking news from Atletico Madrid. They've just signed Matt Doherty on a free transfer, having been released, and his contract terminated by Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. He's standing there in Madrid with a huge smile on his face. Josh, let's come to you. Let's come to you on Jed Spence. Do you think Jed Spence was unfairly treated by Conte and Tottenham?
Yeah, I think he should have got much more game time. And what tells you and kind of demonstrates that is the fans. Every single time he came on the pitch, the fans gave him like the largest cheer I've ever heard. Like
free Jed Spence.
Jed Spence coming on, or however the Spurs substitution. Jed Spence, and he go like, because we all know what he's capable of. He's a great young player, and we're dying out. We're literally dying for a right back with a bit of pace who can kind of inject a bit of energy down that right hand side. After watching like Emerson and Doherty, which is like watching your eyes getting gouged out. Look, I'm not even sure it's a great decision sending him to France. A bit like sending Gil back to Spain. I think that's just absolutely literally. I'll be plain and simple, but I think that's stupid. We've given him back to Sevilla after giving them £21 million and Lamella, and now we're getting him back. It's like, that's mental. That's literally mental. That's like going down to the supermarket, filling your trolley up with food, and then paying for it, and then giving them back the food to put on the shelf. Like, come on now. That is ridiculous. That is genuinely insane. And I'm just thinking in my head, just a couple of thoughts. Why didn't we give Jed Spence back to Nottingham Forest? He can show what he's made
or even
of
Everton
in the Premier League. It's just astounding. Why didn't we give Gil or try and give Gil to like an English team? Because he's so small and not physical enough. He's got to bulk up and get more used to Premier League football. Why send him back to La Liga where they don't press you and they play a totally different style of football? It's just odd. It's bad club management. Whoever's made those decisions, I don't know. It's just insane. It's almost like the fans would make better decisions. It's very odd.
That is exactly what I was going to ask, Craig. Let's come to you on that point. Josh made some great points there about English clubs. I would have liked to have seen Spence in the Premier League to get some Premier League minutes so we can see what he can do. Brian Hill, exactly the same. Brian Hill going back there. It just seems like a really poor decision to me. Like Josh said,
it's totally, Josh. That's such a good analogy about putting giving your shopping back to Tesco's after you've bought it. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous and the fact, remember Lamella, we give him Lamella and a load of money, like you say. Now I'd have had Eric Lamella back. do you know what I mean? I mean, Christ, at least he had something about him.
Breaking news: Pedro Porro is done.
Excellent.
Tottenham Hotspur have just announced Pedro Porro has signed for the club. Thank God for that. There is 10 minutes left of this window, and the transfer is finally over the line. Sorry to interrupt you, Craig.
No, that's a bit of good news. At least that's done. So he's got 2 signings now.
I feel the energy, Craig. I feel the energy.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah. No, look, I was never really worried about it. I think we would have heard. I said to Chris before we come on here, I was never, you generally hear if somebody had gone tits up in the medical, you would have heard. So, but look, no, sending Gil back to Spain, let alone the club he come from, is utterly ridiculous. What are you going to learn? What are you going to learn about that? Nothing. Spence, personally, I'd have liked to see him go somewhere like West Ham because he's local. He probably, you could keep a close eye on him how he's doing. West Ham aren't challenging this season. I think there would have been a good club for him to go to. Brentford was out of the question because they would have wanted an obligation to buy from what we hear. So it's just ridiculous him going to Rennes. I mean, apparently it's quite a good club. Apart from being a bit of a to get to by car, Chris, I think you probably back me up on that one. After your road trip with Gary. But you know, apparently it's going to be a good club for him to go to for getting game time. I think that's the only thing you can say. I would have much preferred him to stay in the Premier League, but at least he's getting game time. I think that's all you can say on him.
For those of you just joining us, Pedro Porro has signed for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, so we have our second signing of this January transfer window. You pleased, Rich?
Yeah, definitely. It's much needed quality for sure, and I know a lot of Spurs fans definitely wanted that position filling by quality. He's a weapon on the pitch. I'm sure that he's going to produce some great moments home and away. Also great, like I said before, dead ball specialist, so we can use him in those areas if needed. I think it's a much needed kind of lift for some of the Spurs fans that have been really disappointed with the lack of decision around kind of let's just go for a player and let's sew up the deal early. And why are we leaving it so late? And why has it took like 6 weeks to do this deal? It should have been done and dusted weeks ago.
Harvey White has also gone out on loan to Derby County. The 21-year-old midfielder made his Premier League debut against Crystal Palace a couple of weeks ago. He played for Portsmouth last season on loan, making 22 appearances, scoring 1 goal. A good loan for him, Josh? Yeah,
I think that's a good loan. Again, as we just said, he's gone to an English club where he can learn the game. And he's not going to get in a Premier League side, is he? He's still a young lad learning his trade, but he's got a lot of potential. I think that's a decent move for him, as long as he gets game time and he can improve. It's a bit like the likes of Dane Scarlett, things down at Portsmouth, isn't it? They're good clubs for players to develop instead of just sitting on the bench at Spurs, cleaning Harry Kane's boots and not actually getting any game time. I think it's a good move for him, and we probably should have sent Spence like we just said, and Craig said we should have sent him to an English club.
Yeah, maybe it was actual players that chose their destination instead of the club. Actually, like you were saying before, I think the fit for definitely Brian Gill would have been physical, a structured game, English game, obviously, with a team that's either a very similar setup that Spurs is, to give him that kind of opportunity to play that system. And you could manufacture that if you're sending a player off to loan, and then put stipulations in how many actual games towards the end of the season, and just make sure the scouts every game analysing kind of the way he's playing, and still having an impact on how he's being coached as well. Because I think, like you said, Brian Gill going back to Spain, he might have a couple of games, but he's not gonna improve the attributes that we need him to.
Do you think there's a future for him at Spurs, Rich? Because him going back to Sevilla, is a straight loan. He will come back in the summer.
Yeah.
Do you think that he will be a first teamer eventually at Tottenham?
Well, I can't see it. I can't see how he fits at the moment. I'd like the club to kind of tell us how he would fit if he's coming back from loan. Again, he's like, the final ball was a little bit off. There you go, with the shirt. Is that superimposed? Is that photoshopped, or is that real?
Real.
You can't tell nowadays, can you? But
there's 5 minutes to go. We could have another few signings, Rich.
Mate, I don't know about that. There's something in the chat saying that there's possibly a centre back for Ajax. I don't know whether that's true or not. I did see that game.
It's Tongan and Alderweireld on loan.
No, don't read his name out. I warn you. Don't even go there, Rich.
I
know. Josh, let's come to you. We've got many players out on loan. I talk about Brian Hill there. When you look at the likes of Ndombele, Reguilon, Winks, Roden, Lo Celso, Udogie, Spence, Brian Hill, Scarlett, Parrott, how many of these players do you think are actually going to come back in the summer, be knocking on the door, and probably get in a Spurs shirt again?
Probably Udogie. That's it. Probably that. From what I've seen, that player looks unreal, and he's going to really challenge, especially with Perisic kicking on. He's obviously going to be quite old. I don't even know how long his contract is. I think he's got a 2-year contract, Perisic. So Udogie looks brilliant. He looks exactly what we need at left back. He's quite a prolific goal scorer as well, from what I've seen that he does in Italy. So with Porro and Udogie, I mean, that fills out Conte's kind of wing-back system. It's better than anything that we've got so far. And he's obviously talent ID'd him with Paratici. Potentially, as we've all said, Spence as well. But we all just know he's not going to get any game time in anytime soon. But we all know what he's capable of. I mean, I really don't get a Spence thing, because I remember watching him for Nottingham Forest absolutely dismantle Arsenal in an FA Cup game, just literally destroying them down their right-hand side. And when we signed him, I just reminded me of that game. I watched it at the City ground, and I just thought, I didn't watch it live, I watched it on TV obviously, but I just thought it was unreal. And
well, Josh, apparently Spence had the choice to go to a Premier League club, but he chose Rennes. Why do you think he chose that?
Maybe, I don't know, maybe he likes croissants and red wine. I don't know, honestly, because I would have chosen to go to a Premier League club. Or if I was offered other French clubs, I would have gone to Reims. Like, I've been reading quite a lot about Reims. They've got a manager who's like British. Will Still, he's not even licensed manager, but he's getting a lot out of these French players, and there's a couple of English lads on loan there. I think one of Arsenal's strikers is on loan there. It's really interesting because this guy isn't even like a qualified coach, but they're 11 games unbeaten. There's a Twitter feed about it.
And they get fined every time he manages, don't they?
Or something, isn't it?
Yeah. No, apparently he went there though because two of the two Rennes right backs are injured. One of them's their captain actually, but they're both injured, so he's guaranteed to start every game. And I think that's all he wanted. So I think that's why he went there.
Craig, I want to come to you and get your opinion on all of those players out on loan and whether you think any of them can come back and knock on the door of the first team. But before I do, I would just like to ask all of the viewers to hit the like button and subscribe button, and also give me your rating out of 10 for this January transfer window for Tottenham. I'll put as many as possible on the screen, and I'll also be asking all the three guests for their rating out of 10 on this window as well. Craig, what players do you think are going to come back and knock on the door of Antonio Conte or the next manager to say, let me play?
Probably just one. If you discount Udogie because he's coming back, and it's slightly different on him, but I think it's just going to be Spence. I can't see Ndombele, Lo Celso, Winks, Reguilon. Reguilon's a weird one because he for me looks like he could be a ready-made sort of like left wing back. He's never quite hit the heights that I think everybody expected him to. So that's a funny one. I just can't see any of them actually, to be honest, because none of them have set the world alight, as far as I'm aware. So just Spence, hopefully just Spence, and it will be Spence and Porro fighting it out for the right wing back slot. I just can't see anybody else really pushing it, to be honest. Don't know what everybody else thinks, but I think Ndombele, as much as we all wanted him to work, it's clear that it's not going to work, is it? He could have been world class, but we all know what happened there. So
he's going to win the league, though, Craig. They're 13 points clear, Napoli, and he's gonna. It's another case of a Spurs player leaving and winning a trophy, a bit like Nuno went and won a trophy.
Even Nuno, yeah. You're not allowed to mention that name, Josh.
No.
No, it went with the word trophy. So Nuno's all right now. He's won something. No, Craig, your rating out of 10 for this transfer window?
A very generous 5.
Okay. What about you, Rich?
I don't know. I think we need to. I think judgment-wise as well. You look at obviously that right wing back position being one of our real strong points of the team that Conte's kind of gone. Actually, wing backs, left and right wing back. We need to be strong in these positions for my system to work. So if he has gone out for his number one target and filled it with Porro, I think we still need to, like obviously with the Kulu and the last transfer window in January, where it was kind of we're getting to Juve rejects, and we were saying that it was probably about a 4 or 5 out of 10 then. So I think we need to reserve judgment. I would say, not knowing anything about Porro and how he's going to influence the team, I would probably say it's a 4 or 5 out of 10. I just that attacking central midfield is the position that I've just really, even not to be linked with anybody, just to say. But I think what the club's looking for is maybe some of the free transfers in the summer, that out of contract players that would probably be paying over the odds in wages and not pay a transfer fee. That's my concern, that they've actually identified 4 or 5 players that they're going to target in the summer, that are going to have low transfer fees. Go for those. Hopefully get the best out of Richarlison, and we'll fill all those positions so we've got a strong starting 11 with good backups that come back from loan, like Spence.
Can I just say, this is on the Tottenham Hotspur website. We're delighted to announce the signing of Pedro Porro from Sporting. The right wing back will join the club on loan until the end of the season, with an obligation to make the deal permanent in the summer. He will wear the number 23 shirt. Josh, let's come to you. Let's get your rating out of 10 on this transfer window.
I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. I think 2 for each player. It's underwhelming. It's not above 5. Obviously, the window's closed now. Yeah, I'll give it, I reckon, 4 out of 10. Although, you might see Porro, he might come in our side, and like we see with Kulusevski, when Kulusevski's not playing, we struggle. But when he comes in, we do very well, and the stats show that. But we add Porro, our side might completely change.
Right side's going to be crazy.
It could change totally. Our whole fortunes of the season could change. You might need to know Danjuma might come in, and he might just, I don't know, he might have that kind of Kulusevski and Bentancur factor of an underrated player who just comes in and smashes it, hits the ground running, gets a lot of goals. We know what he's capable of in the Champions League. He just needs to do it again. So yeah, it could be very positive. I mean, it's not saying that we're going to get screwed for the next half of the season, but yeah, we could have done much better. I feel we could have gone out there, showed more ambition, and that's why I'm giving them 4. But yeah, I think it's not an incredible window. It's an underwhelming, but it's not. I wouldn't even say it's acceptable, but it's just is what it is, isn't it? There's nothing we can do. Unfortunately, at least the one thing I can say is at least they've actually done something, because it's better than what Pochettino got, where he didn't even get a player for like 2 years or something. At least we've actually got 2 new players, and the Porro deal is a big positive.
Yeah, 518 days without a signing, and yeah, we needed players then, and I feel like we need so much more. I would probably give it a 4 out of 10 as well. I don't feel happy about this window, and I am very worried about the European spot, and that is exactly my next question. And I know you hate this question, Rich, but now we have, now the transfer window, now the transfer window is over. I've got to ask the question: where do you guys feel that we're going to finish in the Premier League at the end of the season, knowing what all the other clubs around us have done in this window? Josh, let's start with you.
I think we're going to finish 4th. I'm not very optimistic, but I do think we're going to just get 4th. I think Chelsea are too far behind, so I don't think they're going to get top 4, even though they've spent so much money on players. I think they're just far too behind. I think Man United losing Eriksen is a massive loss for them, and I think that I think they might even struggle now. They've signed Sabitzer, but he's no Eriksen, and Eriksen's been integral to them. He's created so much, and we know what he's capable of, and he's been fantastic for Man United and made us all think, why on earth didn't we go and get him? So losing him until the end of the season is going to cripple Man United. Liverpool, I don't think we should really worry about them much. I think they're in a bit of disarray. And I think we've just got to compete with those kind of clubs that are up there, and I think we can do it. I think we'll nab top 4. I think it will come in. We'll come in, as you say, we'll come in clutch at the end of the season. It honestly depends on these next couple of games as well. We've got huge fixtures coming up. You know, the West Ham game, Chelsea game at home, Man City at home. These are fixtures we've got to get points in. We've got to grab something in, because that is going to determine if we get top 4. Playing these teams that are competing at the top and nicking points off them, because we've dropped quite a few points. Like, we beat Man City last year. We got 6 points off Man City last year. We've already lost to them. We got 3 points against Arsenal at home. We've lost them. We're worse off than we were on some of these individual games than last year. So we've got to start picking up these points. And I think it's positive. I think we've got Porro now, and we'll see what he can do. We're dying for that creativity. Oh God, that is optimistic, isn't it? We're obviously still in the FA Cup, but I really, honestly, this Wrexham game, if I reckon Wrexham go through against Sheffield United, that is going to be a tough game. Even if we get Sheffield United, hard place to go. We've always struggled going there when they were promoted. So I think that's actually quite a banana skin game. It's actually quite a difficult game in the FA Cup, but we've got to go all in on these cup competitions now, and as well Champions League. I mean, AC Milan are a mess at the moment. They're literally getting absolutely demolished by every side because they've lost their first team goalkeeper to injury, and they've got their second keeper. It's a bit like when Tottenham had to play Michel Vorm, and every single time we just concede a lot of goals. It feels like that for them. So hopefully we can kind of we can make something of that and try and get through. And you never know, with Tottenham in the Champions League, Lucas Moura coming back to fitness, you never know.
Josh, when you look at the FA Cup draw, it's quite favourable to Tottenham again, isn't it? And do you think Conte really ought to take this competition as a priority in a way to try and put a trophy in the cabinet? Because when you look at the teams left, Manchester United, Manchester City are going to be very hard games if we draw them. But all of the other teams, we should be beating them.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have a very favourable outlook in that. I mean, a lot of clubs have been knocked out, and like you say, it's only them two really. But then Conte's record in the FA Cup is not great, and even if we get to semi-final and we get a United or a City, are we going to be able to beat them?
Chelsea.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Actually,
in his last season.
I don't know. We'll have to wait. You can never tell with Tottenham in cup competitions. You always get so excited. We get to Wembley, get to semi-final, and then we just don't turn up. So hopefully Conte can change that, because I remember those games like where we play United and we conceded. I remember when Alexis Sanchez got his transfer to Man United and he scored like 1 goal and it was against Tottenham. He had a shocker and he scored against Tottenham and we just conceded really silly goals. And I remember one game that really pokes in my memory, and which actually I was quite young actually. It was, I don't know if you remember it, Tottenham 4. Oh no, sorry, God, Chelsea 4, Tottenham 2 at Wembley.
Yeah.
FA Cup semi. That was when Matic scored an absolute screamer, and that will stay in my memory forever. It was horrible. It made me very upset as a boy.
Son was at left wing back, yeah?
Yeah, it was shocking, that one. So we've got to break that tradition of these shocking performances in the latter stages of the FA Cup, because Tottenham traditionally, before my time as a Tottenham fan, back in the day, we were very good in the FA Cup. We won quite a few trophies, so we need to sort it out, and hopefully Conte can sort it out for us, and we can win the FA Cup here this year.
Do you remember trophies, Craig?
Yeah, I was just getting slightly depressed when Josh said I was quite young when Chelsea beat us for God, what was I then? Jesus.
Thank God for Josh tonight, giving us a little bit of positivity, because I feel like me, Craig, and Richard have been quite miserable tonight.
I'm positive about the Doherty termination.
I would have given the transfer window a 5 out of 10 had we loaned Emerson, to be honest with you. It'd probably gone up a point, but no, in all seriousness, I think I'm going to be positive. I think we could still finish 4th, to be honest with you, for all the reasons Josh has said there. We're 3 points off. So grand scheme of things, I think we've played a lot of the big teams away. So we've got a favourable on paper anyway, run of fixtures coming up after the City game. So, if we get ahead of steam up and win a few games, if we win 3 or 4 back to back, you're right up there. And we came strong last season towards the end, and it's definitely possible. You know, it's easy to get down when you get spanked 2 games in a row by City and Arsenal, and then you beat Fulham, and you're kind of back up again, and you have a decent result against a team like Preston, who, with the greatest respect, you should be beating anyway. But the test is going to come Sunday, obviously against City. If we can get some form of result on Sunday, as long as we don't lose Sunday, I think that's a step in the right direction. It'd be lovely to see Porro start. I'm not convinced he will. I think Emerson might start. I want to see Porro start, however. Be interesting to see what team he does put out. I think you'd probably bar a couple of players. I think it's a choice between Sessegnon and Perisic, and Longley and Davies, and I think the rest of the team picks itself probably. But it's difficult to know how we're going to look in a month's time. Is Porro going to settle in straight away? I think if he does, I think we've got every chance of finishing in that top 4. And then we'll all be coming back and then saying we had a brilliant transfer window. Because this time last year, remember, do you remember that Simone come on? I remember I don't think I was on the show, but he come on and clearly said Bentancur and Kulusevski are basically useless. They're not going to improve. They're no I think his phrase was, "They're no improvement on Harry Winks." And we're all sitting there going, he did say that, didn't he? And I was thinking, oh my Christ, this stinks of like desperation. 11th hour signing. He's gone back to Juventus and got 2 players that Juventus, they're not even good enough to get in the Juventus squad, let alone the team. And we've signed them. God, it's going to be an absolute disaster. And then, of course, we all know what happened. So you just don't know. You just don't know. They're 2 decent players. Porro's a great player from what I've seen. Jury's still out on Danjuma, but he had a good start. So, you know, let's see what they can do. Reassess it in a month.
Well, Joshua said 4th. Craig said 4th. Roy here is saying 4th and the FA Cup. I don't know where all this positivity is coming from. I just must be getting miserable in my old age. Rich, what are you thinking?
I've said 5th from about 2 months ago. I think, are we good enough for the top 4? How we've been playing this season? I think we can all admit probably not. We're not the 4th best team in the league this season. I think we've been very disappointed in some of the bigger games. With the style of football that we've been playing has not been like the first half of every game. We've not been on it. We've not had enough energy. It feels like the players aren't at it from minute 1, but that's clearly not. It's the style of play. It's about letting them come on to us and then just break in behind. I think obviously a lot of the teams know how to play us when we play like that, and it looked and feels like awful. And yes, it's about obviously 3 points every game, but we're not even winning those, and we're just like giving away silly goals. Defensively, looking very poor. I think there's key areas of the pitch where we're not taking advantage of like play. Free kicks have looked terrible again. How many times have we talked about certain players taking free kicks? I don't want to see that ever again. Thank you very much. I think we need to sign a petition that needs to go to number 10. There needs to be debate that no more Harry Kane taking free kicks, please. Yeah, 5th. I think we'll have a good run in the FA Cup though. I think we will get to the final, and anything happens in those finals. I think it will be against one of the Manchester clubs as well, United or City final. So I think we've got a great opportunity. I think Sheffield United away, I'm again being realistic. I think they'll beat Wrexham at the home ground, and then going Sheffield, beating Sheffield United, getting hopefully a favourable home draw against maybe a better team, which will then beat, and then we're into the kind of business end of the cup. Champions League wise, that just depends who we draw after the AC Milan result. I think we beat them. There's still a lot of good teams in that draw. Have we got enough for 2 games? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we have, especially if we get some of the big guns from Europe. So 5th, FA Cup, good run, and maybe quarter-finalist Champions League.
Can I just ask all three of you how you are now being all so positive about where we're going to finish?
Positive. I'm realistic.
No, about where we're going to finish in the Premier League table. Having just said that this window isn't enough, and we haven't done enough in this window. Josh, you're saying we're going to finish 4th, but then earlier you're saying we haven't done enough in this window. We should have done more. You really think we're going to finish in the top 4?
I think we'll scrape it and we'll finish 4th, even though we haven't done enough. I think you can hold both kind of ideas. I feel like we just because every single time this happens, they suck you back into the club and they make you just feel that feeling of kind of, as a fan, you just think, come on, we can do it. I know that they're capable of doing it. They did it last year, and anything can happen at the end of the day. I mean, we like Conte said last season, I think it was a miracle we got top 4. But we've got to start playing properly. If we don't start playing properly, we're not going to get top 4, are we? But with Porro, and I keep coming back to this point, I feel like Conte's system is actually going to work now a bit better than what we had before, where Emerson or Doherty was receiving the ball and we were struggling going forward. But now we've got a player who can bomb down that wing and put the ball in, and Harry Kane's going to have more service. I feel like we're going to score more goals. I feel more defensively we're going to have a little bit more on that right-hand side. It feels like that right-hand side is complete with Kulusevski, Romero, Porro. It feels like half that team is done with Harry Kane in the middle. That half of the side is done. We've just got to sort out the other side, and there we go. Bob's your uncle, and we can move forward. But I feel more positive, and even it always happens. We have these chats, and you think logically, and you hear everyone's opinions, and you get a bit fired up and a bit motivated. I think we're capable of it. I think we can come forth. Honestly, I don't want to sound delusional, but I think we can get Champions League football, and that is our target as a football club, and that should be. We all know that's Daniel Levy's target because that's where the money comes from for the club to kind of continue and be profitable. But hopefully that'll be enough to keep Harry Kane and see Conte happy enough to stay.
Well, I don't know what's happened because I'm normally the positive one. So I don't know what's happened here on this chat. Craig, Josh talks about miracles. Can we have a miracle again this season?
Yeah, absolutely we can. There's no reason we can't. It would be almost a miracle, wouldn't it? Because nobody would have thought when he came in last season, that we could have done it. And yet somehow, over the course of a month, you started to believe again, and then we're up there. And it was a bit of a yo-yo for a time, wasn't it? I remember about 10 games to go, 9 games to go. I think we were 7th or 8th, and it seemed like we were miles away. And then, just like I say, we went on a run. We won 3-4 games back to back. Other teams around us dropped points, and then Arsenal came back at it, and all they had to do was beat Newcastle, of course, on that Monday night football, and they lost. And I mean, they looked like they were going to draw. That would have done, and then they lost, and all we had to do was get a result at Norwich. So, look, things can happen. Newcastle are looking pretty strong, but as Josh said, Man United don't underestimate the importance of Christian Eriksen. He really does make them tick, as he did us, And if you're replacing Eriksen with McTominay and Fred, there's not much creativity coming there. All right, I don't know that Sabitzer coming in. He's going to obviously be a game changer, but he's not played in the Premiership before, so you can't expect him to. Having said that, he'll probably come in and do an absolute worldie, wouldn't he? But look, we can do it. You've got to think. We can do it. There's no reason we can't. Other teams around us, they are dropping points at the moment. Chelsea are buying everybody under some, but there's no guarantee those players are going to gel. Seriously, I mean, you look at this obscene amount of money Chelsea have spent this window. I think it's more than the entire spend across all the main leagues or something is their spend. I keep going to call him Brian Potter. That was Peter Kay's character in Phoenix Nights, wasn't it? Graham Potter. He has been backed bar a centre forward. So, you know, are Chelsea fans going to be happy? Probably not. Probably not completely. They'll probably give their window an 8 or 9, won't they? But, you know, nobody's happy all the time. So all those players have got to gel. We're saying these clubs are strengthening. Yeah, they are, but they've got to gel. They're not net, as we know from history in Tottenham. Just because you buy a player, it doesn't mean to say they're going to work out.
Yeah.
So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, you're definitely right there, Craig. And I think obviously we know that certain players in the team have not hit the heights of last year as well. Sonny, obviously due to again, I've mentioned this many times. I think due to his eye socket injury, it's made a massive difference on how he's travelled with the ball, his confidence. I think obviously with the game against Preston, you could even tell by his goals there were more Sonny goals. There weren't a scuff and it goes in. It was like he turned and you knew as soon as he took the shot on, it was going in the back of the net. I think if he gets on a run with Kane, obviously that kind of that telepathy that they've got between themselves, I think that gives us that great, obviously, goal threat across the board. I think my big concern is still the defensive side of a team and how we're conceding goals, sloppy goals as well. Hugo, confidence-wise, that needs to improve if we're going to get in the top 4, and also how we play as a unit. I think defensively, in some parts of our games, we've actually looked quite stable, and then also we've looked very flaky. So that needs to improve. The central midfield partnership, obviously, again, has that really kind of, apart from Højbjerg, Benzica, anybody else that comes into that partnership hasn't really kind of added any value yet. I think that can still improve. And then obviously Sessegnon and Perisic, again, we're not sure there. So there's lots of improvement. We could get into top 4. I think my big issue is we've got some big teams underneath us that can pick up a lot of points, like we could as well. So that's why I said 5th. But obviously you're optimistic as well that maybe 4th is still on the cards.
Yeah, I think we're going to probably finish outside the top 4. I am disappointed by this transfer window. I expected a lot more. I think Antonio Conte would expect a lot more as well. I feel that he will be disappointed. Personally, and I don't want to be really negative, but personally, I can't see Antonio Conte being at Spurs next season. Just to recap this transfer window, because the transfer window is now closed. We have got 2 players in: Danjuma from Villarreal on loan, Porro from Sporting on loan, but we will end up buying him on the 1st of July. 4 players have gone out the door: Spence on loan to Rennes, Brian Hill on loan to Sevilla, Harvey White on loan to Derby County, and Tottenham Hotspur have terminated the contract of Matt Doherty. Last question for you all. Rich, let's start with you. Your thoughts on the Manchester City game and your score prediction?
Well, yeah, it's I think it's pivotal really for the season. If our expectations are that we get 4th or 5th, we need to get something out of that game. I think moving forwards into the other games as well, to continue the vibe that we got from the Preston game and not just think we went to Preston, obviously dominated in sections, came out easy winners at the end. I think we need Man City to come to us, and we need to really kind of hold our own in key positions. And I think we probably did that in the first game for probably 20 minutes. And then to go in 2-0 up, obviously flattered us, to be honest. And we all know what happened in the second half. Flaky. I would expect us to be more competitive across the whole game, depending who starts. I think we were far too open in that second half, and also lots of frailties down the wings. We allow players, their creative players like Jack Grealish, who should be in a Spurs shirt clearly, to have far too much of the ball and not get close to them, because we under this Conte style of play now, not pressing like we had done previously. I think it then creates problems when you've got flair players like Grealish, And then obviously Silva, players like that, obviously De Bruyne, all these players that incredible vision, incredible on the ball. I would accept a draw as well. I'd accept a draw. I think the problem with that is obviously potentially it gives Arsenal a bigger points total at the top, which I'm not too happy about either. But I think it might be a statement game for us. I'd love us to nick it, have a really kind of stalemate game where we kind of, it's both teams aren't really kind of doing too much in those final thirds, but we're having a really good battle in the middle, and then we nick it, and I think Sonny scoring the goal, either 2-1 or 1-0, but I can see a draw.
You've been really positive tonight, Rich.
It's a Doherty at the start. That's it.
It is. I'm sure. Josh, Josh, what are you thinking? You're gonna say that we're gonna win this game?
2-1. 2-1. They haven't scored a goal at our stadium, Man City. We played them quite a few times now. They haven't even scored. But I think Haaland will break that. He's just such a machine. He's going to score. But I think we'll get the win. And I think Danjuma is going to replay Bergwijn's debut against Man City, and he'll come on and score. If you remember rightly, Bergwijn's debut, he took it off his chest and scored a lovely goal, and we won about 2-0.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get the win. And I think Pedro Porro is going to win it for Tottenham.
I'm sure this section of this podcast is going to be clipped next week. My God. Craig, what are you thinking? Craig, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I was. Yeah, I think it'll be perhaps I should stay on mute. I think it'll be a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be an entertaining game. I think we'll go behind, and I think we'll come back, and it will be 2-2. I think we'll put in a stellar performance, and the fans will think, "Yep, we can take a draw if we play like that." Am I making you believe yet? I'm making myself believe. Yeah, I kind of agree. They do historically struggle at our place, so I think like we struggle at certain places like Stamford Bridge. I just think our stadium is their kind of bogey ground, and I think that does count for a lot, considering you know that you can back that up. But with our record at Stamford Bridge, we just can't seem to buy a win there. So I think they'll be coming knowing that record, and as good as they are, I don't think they are the team they've been in previous years at the moment, and I think we've got a chance. But having said that, I think it will be a draw. I want to see Porro start, of course I do, but I'm not convinced he will. I hope he does, though. I hope he does. But we've got a chance. Got a big chance.
I think Pedro Porro has to start this game, surely. But it's funny, Craig. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a draw. I always say a draw when I'm worried about a game. I think Manchester City are so strong. And, of course, we saw a couple of weeks ago, 2-0 up there. And then, of course, they came back in the second half. They're just such a strong team. They're full of quality throughout, and their bench is just an amazing bench. Most of their players, realistically, most of their players on their bench, if not all of them, would get into our starting 11. They are that good. So it's going to be an extremely difficult game. Rich, can you just take this question on screen from Anna? £120 million spent to replace Walker. No forward planning.
Yeah, I think that's the problem is just trying to shortchange the decision making, isn't it? You kind of get rid of a player such as Walker and Trippier. You look at those positions, how key they were to when we were successful, and there was no kind of forward planning with that at all. Again, with Eriksen, I remember being on your show and me and Ricky having a bit of a ding dong about Eriksen, and I'm going, we should get him back. The opportunity's there. Eriksen was staying in the same hotel as Conte. They were having regular conversations about the possibility of coming back to Spurs. The opportunity was there. I, like Craig, think Man United are going to be massively affected. I've watched last 4 or 5 Man United games, and when he's played well, Fernandes has played well, and the balls out to the wings. Rashford's played a lot better because of that. I think Man United are going to be affected, but yeah, a massive hole in the team when the money they've wasted on players that have not made the grade at all. They've just been, these could work, where actually, why don't we just go for a player and go, actually, they've got a £60 million release clause, go for it and just go, actually, this is time now to throw money at the team. We've got a great opportunity to move forward. We didn't do it last time under Pochettino. We know how that went. The team has continued to kind of just tread water since then. We need to have a massive kind of influx of financial resources to give the manager the actual weapons they need to dominate teams. We're seeing how like teams like Newcastle are now have got that money, got that resource. Take obviously Chelsea out of this equation. Teams like Newcastle have got the money and the resource, and they've got a young manager that wants the team to do well, that wants the players that he's already highlighted, and just gone out and got them. Like even I was thinking today as well. Like Gallagher, would have that been like for 40 million? Would have that been an opportunity for Spurs? Now whether Chelsea would have actually let him come, but I just think he would have offered that kind of bringing the ball forward and giving the opportunity to have something different, which we haven't got that player. I think the midfield players that we've got are very similar. We just need to go for the players.
Pedro Porro, Tottenham Hotspur have just released an interview with Pedro Porro, so do check it out on their social media channels. Pedro Porro has just said, I can provide character, desire, and a great attitude to this team. Josh, the very last question on this stream, question on screen now, quick question. Can Pedro Porro take free kicks? I know you've watched Pedro Porro a lot. Any good at free kicks? Because every single game we talk about Harry Kane on free kicks. A lot of us have said that Heung-min Son should be taking free kicks. Can Pedro Porro take them?
Yeah, I think he can whip in quite a decent free kick. And obviously he can whip in a lovely cross as well, which is what we need more for Harry Kane. But yeah, as Dean says, he can take a few. He's got a lovely whip on his ball. He hit the crossbar in his last game. He whipped in a lethal ball and actually came down off the crossbar for Sporting. So yeah, he's exactly what we need. I'm really looking forward to seeing him in a Tottenham shirt, and I'm going to watch the interview now after our stream. But yeah, great player. Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this evening, the three of you. Craig, tell everyone where they can find you and what you're up to at the moment.
Just not much. Just obviously quite glad the transfer window is over now. So just concentrate on the football rather than everything that goes on. The madness of the transfer window. So yeah, if you want to follow me at DM9, it's on the screen there on Twitter. Thanks for having me on, Chris. Always good fun, and good luck to Gareth Bale in his playing in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am tomorrow. His first golf competitions. It's unbelievable, isn't it? So I think it starts tomorrow. But yeah, he's apparently he played around with John Rahm, and John Rahm said he can't believe how good Gareth Bale is at golf. So just goes to show that he's probably got another career. How amazing would that be if he actually managed to turn pro and became a golfer? I mean, that's a sportsman for you. But yeah, it's it'd be quite funny to see him on the golf course. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Chris. Come on, Spurs.
Thank you very much, Craig. And Josh, lovely to have you back on. Tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me. I actually got logged out of my Twitter. I didn't know my password, so I've lost my Twitter account, which you might have seen because you didn't tag me in the thing because you couldn't find me. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, whatever, Josh Cowham. But yeah, it's always good to come on here and vent about Tottenham and have a good conversation. Thank you very much for having me on, Chris. And yeah, come on, you Spurs. And I'm looking forward to a weekend, to this game and the next couple of Spurs games, and I'll be coming up for all of them. So hopefully I'll bump into a few people like I bumped into Gary. That was a good laugh.
Well, you certainly haven't vented tonight. You've been very positive, so thanks for your positive comments, Josh. It's nice to have you on. And Rich, thanks so much for coming back. It's been a pleasure having you here. And what are you up to at the moment?
As always, mate, it's a great pleasure to support you and everybody. Like I say, continually obviously today's podcast and subscribe as well. It's really important you support Chris and his journey as well, because he does such great content to inform all the fans and us. So thanks for that, Chris. And I'm just really busy training for London Marathon in April again. We know what happened last year, Chris, don't we?
That's not around again, surely.
Yeah, April, mate. I know.
Back to April this year. So.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this one.
Fancy it.
I'm back in 2024.
So because I did New York as well a week or so after, and a mate of mine, a camera guy, Dave, came out with me to do some content. And mile 17, he gave me 4 pint of beer, and I nailed it. I felt shit after, but I nailed it and then ran to the finish. So, mile 17, I don't know where that is in the course, but anybody that wants to wait for me with a beer, I'd gladly take it. Mile 17.
That must be down the highway somewhere, mustn't it? That's down the highway somewhere. That's where I had half a pint of beer down there, just before you come back you go past Tower Bridge.
Well, I don't do things by arse, mate.
I felt like I felt like utter garbage when I got there. I felt even worse when I left. So yeah, don't have a beer if you want to run.
I know. I felt crap after it. So yeah, I'm training for that, and obviously you can follow me at Marathon Champ on Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, I think it's really important that kind of as fans, we've always talked about when we're in the stadium that we get behind the team, because it does massively affect obviously how we play on the pitch. So again, support the team, but also support Chris and the journey for him to inform us as Spurs fans kind of the ins and outs of the team.
I think that's half the problem, though, isn't it? Because the away fans the last 2 games have been absolutely fantastic, and you can really hear them. But it seems like we're almost quieter when we play at home, because you get the day. You get the day tripper fans, don't you? The ones that just want to go there and take pictures and. Which is fine, I'm sure, from the club's perspective, but it doesn't help generate an atmosphere, does it? You imagine 62,000, not that many because you've got the away fans, but 60,000 people singing the same thing. We've got to make that place an intimidating, horrible place to come for teams that come, and we can really be the 12th man, but we've got to get that atmosphere back. Got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. The games at Fulham and Preston, the away fans were absolutely fantastic. And of course, we had 2 good results. Craig, Rich, Josh, thanks so much for joining me. And thanks to everybody who's watched the stream on YouTube. If you can like the video, share it, put your comments below, and of course subscribe to the channel as well. If you're watching this if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. And I would like to personally thank everybody for watching any streams and listening to any audio versions throughout January. I know I've put a lot of content out. I know a lot of people have said, why are you putting this much content out? If you don't like it, please just switch it off. But I've loved all of the support from every one of you. It's been brilliant, and let's hope now Spurs can finish in the top 4, as Craig and Josh have predicted. And let's hope that Spurs can perhaps put a trophy in the cabinet as well. You never know. Fingers crossed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.